Good afternoon, I'm Krisan Achkate. Welcome to APTN National News. First Nation chiefs and their proxies from across the country have voted down a resolution to accept the $47.8 billion child welfare reform offer in Calgary last night. After 2 days of hearings from various parties for or against the deal, chiefs voted Thursday afternoon. In the end, 267 voted against. 147 voted in favor. There was one abstention. Opposing chiefs said the agreement lacked transparency and could be abandoned by Ottawa after 10 years. Cindy Blackstock, whose First Nations Child and Family Caring Society began the whole process years ago, says the vote is an opportunity to reset and stop discrimination against First Nation children once and for all. According to APTN News, the Alberta Chiefs were approached just before the vote by federal government bureaucrats and told to accept the deal. Blackstock called that move completely unacceptable.
This is a vote for children. And what is the most inspiring thing is that children should know how many people, how many of their leaders love them enough to come here and spend these days having these difficult conversations and making a very difficult decision. I think this is a great opportunity now to reset and make sure that the discrimination stops against First Nations children all over Canada, that it never happens again all over Canada, and that we ensure that every penny goes to maximum value for children and families. And we respect and restore the chiefs as decision makers, and we honor their experts and their families. We've made difficult decisions before, like on compensation, when the chiefs sent it back and said, we need you to do better. And that was a difficult decision for the chiefs to make, and everybody had different views. But we did do better. And I think that's now the challenge, is to get down to work to do the better.
Last Saturday evening, on October 12th, Kim Susay was celebrating her wedding when she was informed that her 18-year-old son and her godnephew and 2 other people were involved in a hit and run in the Enoch Cree Nation in Alberta. The 4 people were hit by a vehicle near the Enoch powwow grounds and were left lying in the ditch with multiple serious injuries. The driver fled the scene, and one of the victims managed to call 911 for help. With more on this incident, Kim Susay joins us now from Edmonton to tell us about what happened and her call for the public's help. Kim, thank you for joining us. First off, I just want to say I'm very sorry that you're going through all of this right now. Can you briefly walk us through what happened on the night of your wedding?
Yes. What was supposed to be a most special day of my life ended in such a tragic way. As a parent, and just, as a parent's worst nightmare. One moment I'm on the dance floor with my husband on our wedding night, and the next thing I know, I'm on the side of a highway screaming and crying, searching for our boys. The scene of the accident is still so fresh in my mind. I remember our screams, our cries, the second we turned that corner off the gravel road onto Highway 60, the red lights from the fire crews, the ambulance, the police, and the flares on the highway lit up the sky. It was all red. We drove past the barricades that they had set up. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, this is really hard. It just happened a few days ago. Are you able to explain just how serious your son and the other victims' injuries are?
Yeah, a lot of the boys, they're not just suffering small scrapes and cuts. These are some very serious injuries that these boys are suffering. It is a long road to recovery. I'm like, it's not just physical, mentally, but emotionally as well. I'm like, these boys have injuries from anywhere from a broken pelvis to a broken neck, even require surgery. Surgery to possibly remove one of their eyes. That's just the seriousness of all of this right now. It's, we're just beside the boys and stuff like that, trying to just be there for them emotionally and physically.
Kim, this incident happened on October 12th. You told me you and the other families involved had to go to the RCMP detachment 3 days later just to get answers on this investigation because the RCMP still didn't reach out to the families.
Yes, so it was, I believe, October 15th at about 12:30 p.m. We still haven't had, we didn't have any answers. We weren't contacted. We were just left in the shadows of everything. That's how we felt. So me and the other parents and family members, we pretty much marched into the Enoch RCMP detachment, wanting to speak to somebody, to one of the constables, anybody there. Basically, we had two constables come out and just explain to us that, with the cross shift and everything of the long weekend and stuff like that, and then just trying to gather bits and parts of, what had happened. They wanted to give us some answers and stuff like that. But unfortunately, we had to wait a while to get those.
What are you able to say just regarding the investigation, where they're at right now?
Right now, with the investigation, I'm unable to say anything because it is a very serious investigation at this point. And that's, yeah.
No, I understand. And lastly, what message do you have for the public in finding who is responsible for this?
This is an incident that can happen to anybody, and unfortunately it happened to us and our family. We're asking that any witnesses and individuals with information, big or small information, please come forward. These boys deserve to feel safe, and knowing that whoever is out there, that they can't be harmed again, and they can't do this to anybody else.
Well, Kim Suse, we'll have to leave it there. I thank you for speaking with us about this.
Thank you. And thank you for hearing us out.
A First Nation family in Saskatchewan is breathing a sigh of relief today after their 5-day-old baby was found safe and sound following an Amber Alert. Waskesiu RCMP issued the Amber Alert Thursday afternoon after receiving a report that a baby was abducted from a healthcare center in Montreal Lake First Nation, north of Prince Albert, at around 1:50 p.m. The baby was located a short time after the alert was issued at around 5:08 p.m. on the Big River Cree Nation, and the baby was assessed safe by EMS. The suspect involved is now in custody. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. And you can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have more stories right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. British Columbians are heading to the polls this weekend to decide who will lead the province for the next 4 years. APTN's Tina House has the story.
What I would ask is that you allow each other to finish at least a first thought.
The three party leaders in BC just recently had a debate that was broadcast on CBC, and it didn't take long for things to get heated.
And a $14 billion deficit being proposed by David Eby will take away the future of people.
You seem to want to respond.
Well, I don't even know where to start here, Shachi.
John Rustad is the BC Conservative Party leader and has been highly criticized for his tough stance on the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which was enacted 5 years ago.
When you look at the debate in the UN on the United Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, we want to bring that to life in terms of how we work with First Nations. You look at the debate, you look at the intention, that's how we will utilize UNDRIP in British Columbia. DRIPPER legislation, the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People Act, has caused friction in this province, and it needs to be replaced.
Grand Chief Stuart Phillips says that if the Conservatives win and follow through with repealing UNDRIP, it will set back the momentum that has been created.
We've made amazing progress, and it speaks to reconciliation with our friends and neighbors and other entities throughout the province, forest companies, mining companies, and so on and so forth. So it speaks to harmonizing the management of the lands, and Rustad wants to come along and rip it up. And I'm convinced that being a right-wing populist, that his ultimate goal is privatization.
NDP leader David Eby, who has been the premier since 2022, recently had a campaign stop in Vancouver and was joined by Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew. He says that if re-elected, his party will continue to create a stronger relationship with Indigenous people in BC.
Sitting down, working out agreements, finding a path forward like we did with the Haida and Haida Gwaii is the path forward. And it provides economic benefits in the form of certainty for everybody. It lifts people out of grinding poverty. We have lots of people living in this province who are Indigenous, who are living in grinding poverty. When we support Indigenous nations in building their economic future, everybody benefits. We've seen the whole region benefit when that happens.
For Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau, she says if her party is elected, they plan on supporting Indigenous rights in all aspects.
What we need is to recognize that the courts have been telling governments across Canada, and especially here in BC, that rights and title for First Nations exist, and the courts have been directing governments to do the work to sort that out at a negotiating table, not, as David said, spend millions and tens of millions of dollars on legal fees, fighting battles that the provincial government always loses, because the courts have been consistent on this, and the courts want governments to create certainty, to create consistency, and to ensure that we're doing the hard but essential work.
Our request for an interview with Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau and Conservative Party leader John Rustad was not granted by the time this story went to air. There are 87 seats available in the legislature and 11 Indigenous candidates running across BC. The provincial election is October the 19th. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
A residential school survivors group in Sault Ste. Marie is hosting a gathering to promote wellness, healing, and community building. The Children of Shingwauk Alumni Association's Wellness Summit covered a variety of topics, one of which is the ongoing impact of substance abuse. APTN's Mike McDonald has more.
The Wellness Summit gave residential school survivors, their families, and communities a chance to reflect, connect with others, and to heal. The ongoing opioid crisis was a topic of discussion, with the Opioid Research Communications and Project Liaison for the Chiefs of Ontario giving a talk on the subject. Sasha Bragg says a common concern is inadequate care for recovering addicts.
One of the main things that was mentioned is aftercare. So, people go to treatment and then they're put right back in the same situation. And a lot of communities don't have aftercare. So yeah, that's a huge barrier that we're facing in communities.
Bragg says there's often a double stigma to contend with.
And not only are you addicted to substances, but you're also Indigenous as well. It's the care, substandard care for sure. Not only that, but a lot of our communities don't even have access to some of these opioid agonist therapies or naloxone even. So just making sure that everybody has access to these is not just First Nations, but everybody.
Another speaker at the summit was Anne Seymour, an associate professor at McGill University. She's been looking into the long-term impacts of colonization.
It's not what's wrong with the person, but what has happened to the person. When I talk about what has happened to the person, I'm thinking about colonization and looking at the impacts. We're not a trauma. We are who we are. As I'm a proud Ojibwe person, and I recognize that through my own healing, that my children and generations to come will be well. So we're moving from intergenerational trauma to intergenerational healing.
Seymour's talk also focused on embracing the land to promote wellness.
We need to return to our teachings and return to the land. And when we return to the land and engage in our identity, it helps with our cultural identity when we engage our cultural practices and our language.
The summit was hosted by the Shingwauk Kinumagega Anishinaabe Education Institute. It included workshops on traditional medicines, cultural activities such as beading, and presentations from support services providers. Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you, Mike. We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, do you support the idea of compulsory addiction treatment? You have your answers as yes, no, or unsure. Have your say at www.aptnnews.ca. The Inuktitut language is now available on Google Translate, making it the first Indigenous language on the platform. We'll tell you more when we're back in less than 3 minutes. Stay with us. Starting on the east, St. John's +9, Charlottetown 11. Cartwright 4, La Grande River 11. Gaspé 8, Saguenay 3. Sunny in Ottawa at 12, Peterborough 13. Sudbury 10, Thunder Bay 16. God's Lake 7, Churchill 7 as well. 8 in Gimli, Princess Harbour 9. Regina -1, Saskatoon -1 as well. Orange +4, Stony Rapids 2. High Level +3, Fort Chipewyan 2. Lethbridge 19, Red Deer 19 as well. Tofino 13, Penticton, rain in 8. Prince George +10, Dees Lake 1. Watson Lake -2, Mayo -9. -2 in Yellowknife, Wati -2. Colville Lake -4, Sax Harbor -6. Nujuat 3, Cambridge Bay -3. And Clyde River 2, Arctic Bay 0. A well-known Manitoba artist has teamed up with an iconic Manitoba clothing brand for a collection based on reconciliation. Sav Jonza brings us the story.
The art of Jackie Travers is in motion thanks to her new collaboration with Mondetta Performance Gear, or MPG. The multimedia artist, known for her vivid use of color and culturally inspired paintings, says she hopes the clothing collection instills pride in those who wear it.
To see our people, working with major brands, to see our designs, to see our stories being told on clothing, to be more visible, that's a lot to be proud of.
Some of the limited edition designs focus on the sacred medicines, others on missing and murdered Indigenous women. 20% of the proceeds from the collection will benefit Ikwe Wejitowin, a shelter for Indigenous women escaping gender-based violence.
When I was younger, I used their services, and I just feel it's important to give back. And I think that they're not funded very well. They could always use a little bit extra help.
MPG reached out to Travers to create the line after seeing the graduation robes she designed for the University of Manitoba last year. MPG is a division of Mondetta, a clothing brand started in 1986 in Manitoba. The Jackie Travers collection launched on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and sold out that same day.
These pieces of art have become a canvas of Jackie's artwork. And by the response of the collection thus far, we sold out immediately in the first round. We know this collaboration has struck a chord and means something special to not only Canadians, but also Americans. Given the response, we're keenly excited to collaborate further with Jackie to share more of her artwork in the future.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew attended the event in celebration of the collaboration to give accolades to Travers's career.
Like every time I see her art, it speaks to me because it comes from somewhere real. It comes from this deep authenticity. And knowing a bit about her and the path that her life has been on, to see the success that Jackie has earned for herself by using her creator-given talent has just been such a pleasure to watch from the outside.
Another round of the Jackie Travers MPG collection will be available for purchase in the coming days. Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Great job, Jackie. This weekend, a Winnipeg choral ensemble is debuting 3 new works by 3 Indigenous composers. Inspired by the poems of Métis writer Katharina Vermette, the Nesta concert honors water, women, and water keepers. APTN's Sarah Bettens sat down with composer and artistic director Andrew Balfour and conductor Mel Braun between rehearsals.
Through poetry and song, the Dead of Winter Choral Ensemble is giving water a voice. Using Métis writer Katarina Vermette's poetry, Cree composers Andrew Balfour and Melody McIver and Métis composer Ian Cousson crafted 3 new choral arrangements. Mel Braun is Nesta Wea's co-curator and conductor.
What we decided to do was then, with a focus on water, look at the poetry of Kate Vermette, because her River Woman book is all about the river, specifically the Red River, and you know how much, if you've read her stuff, how much the river figures always in her writing.
Balfour is a 60s scoop survivor who began reconnecting with his Cree roots through music. He says the title, Nesta Wea, represents a deep historic connection to the land and waters.
Nesta Wea means 3 points in Cree. You know, with the Assiniboine, the red, and the land, the point, the meeting places. We all know the forks are meeting places, but it's so much more important for us as Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people to understand this was a meeting place.
Rather than a concert, Balfour describes Nesta Wea as a ceremony. The performers were invited to bring water from their community to be honored through song. Songkeepers Laura Horton, Taylor Galvin, and Ellen Cook will share teachings, shedding light on water inequities impacting Indigenous communities.
They've taken the water from them, so we could have all this. So that's kind of shining the importance of the 2 Canadas, the Canada that high-speed internet, the southern Canada, and the Canada up north that doesn't have food sovereignty, doesn't have clean water, addictions, suicides. So these are important things that we can tell through song.
The performance is debuting at a time when struggles to protect water have been waged across Turtle Island. In September, the Southern Chiefs Organization filed a lawsuit seeking charter rights for Lake Winnipeg. Nesta Wea songkeeper Taylor Galvin is named in the lawsuit. As a composer, Balfour feels his role is to immortalize stories about the water through song.
The impact that song and music can make is I think, a lot longer lasting than bills or the Indian Act or legal struggles. I think that my goal is long after I'm not on Mother Earth anymore, that this music and these stories will still be going.
The Nesta Wea concert debuts this Sunday at the University of Manitoba's Des Hotels Concert Hall. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The Inuktitut language is now available on Google Translate, making it the first Indigenous language on the platform. Inuktitut encompasses the different dialects of the Inuit language spoken in Canada, Greenland, and Alaska. Google Translate consulted with the Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami, or ITK. It already had its own language model with common characters to help write in any of the dialects spoken in northern Canada. That model, combined with first language speakers and artificial intelligence, is what Google based its translation on. Inuktitut has 2 writing systems, one in syllabics and one in the Roman alphabet. Both will be available on the Google Translate app. ITK welcomed the move, saying this empowers Inuit to interact more fully in the digital world. According to Stats Canada, there are nearly 40,000 Inuktitut speakers in the country. And that's your midday newscast for this Friday, October 18th. Dennis Ward will be back here for your evening newscast. Make sure to join us then. From everyone at APTN National News, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Next day.